Hey guys, welcome back to VW Family Farm, and you guys seem to like it when I share with you my thoughts on things, and today I'm going to do just that. If you are paying attention much at all, you know that our food system frankly is in danger, and I'm afraid a lot of us have been duped. We are living in some strange times. I've been researching a lot lately on natural ways to do different things like lower your cholesterol, lower your cancer risk, things like that. As you know, if you've been around here a bit, we have a market here on our farm. We have a lot of people coming in. We have a lot of people asking questions, and I'm just continuously trying to educate myself. It's really got my wheels to turning lately when I Googled ways to naturally lower your cholesterol, and the number one food to do that is, no surprise, I think if a lot of us think about it, we would know, is oats. I've known that for a long time, but one of the number one things that comes up when you start researching that is Cheerios. And it's wild to me that red meat, butter, milk, eggs, all the things that our ancestors ate for hundreds of years, thousands of years, are now bad, and Cheerios is like the number one thing to help you get healthy. Let that sink in. There are actually all kinds of studies being done all the time trying to discredit the benefits of real food. It doesn't take but a quick Google search to figure that out. And if you look into it and you look who is behind a lot of these studies, you'll be surprised. Our food system is a large corporate machine, and I just encourage you guys to wake up to that. Open your eyes. Even if you don't change your habits at all and you're not interested and you're good with how you eat and you're 100% fine with the things that you buy, just educate yourself and just know, even if it doesn't change you at all, education is never a bad thing. Our food system is controlled by a few major companies. If you don't believe me, turn on an NFL football game and watch the food commercials and read down at the bottom of the screen who's behind most of those commercials. You'll start to see a trend on the same names over and over and over. Just for an example, did you know Kraft? When you think of Kraft, what do you think of? Mayo, salad dressing? Did you know they also own Taco Bell? Did you know they also own Primal Kitchen, which has now made its way into our health foods? I think a lot of times, especially in the South, we are in the state where Walmart was born. We think of big corporate machines as Walmart. While Walmart is huge and it is, a big corporation that is very supportive of, importing from China and all kinds of different things, they're not the only ones. There is an elite group, and if you open your eyes to it, they're controlling government regulations on food. They're controlling lobbying, all kinds of things. In most states, I would venture to say, it's easier to get illegal drugs than raw milk. Do you see what I'm saying? Isn't that kind of crazy and kind of a problem? In my opinion, if you educate yourself and you are comfortable with raw milk, the government should not be able to tell you that you cannot have that. Until just recently here in Arkansas, it was not legal to sell raw milk. It's still only legal if it's sold from your farm. They have to come to you at the farm. In fact, I have a fellow farmer friend that was selling raw milk a few years ago. He's out of business now because that's what happens when they, put so many stipulations on you that you can't survive. And when you're a farmer and you live literally in the middle of nowhere, as a lot of farmers do, people are not going to come to you. And so he was taking it to a town and a central location for people to come get from him. Long story short, someone got in line and got milk from him and turned him in, and he was arrested for selling raw milk and for delivering it just for the convenience of the customers. It's crazy. I don't understand that, but it has become since legal to sell a certain amount from your own farm. They have to come to you, like I said. Also, another interesting fact, while it was still more hard to do. People would have to buy into a herd share. Basically, you'd have to make it like they owned part of a cow, basically, for them to be able to get raw milk. Back during those days, before the laws changed in Arkansas, we have, interestingly enough, a large milk corporation here in Arkansas that would lobby against raw milk being legal. Finally, they lost, and it became what it is today, where people can get it legally from your farm. But just think about that. They were the ones pushing back that didn't want it legal. Back when it was hard to get, you could go down there and buy new plastic gallon milk jugs from them. All of a sudden, after it became legal, you could get them for a bit, and then it just stopped. They stopped selling to anybody in the public. That's their right to do. But why did they do that for years and years and years and then suddenly stop, which has made it incredibly more difficult, I'll say, to get plastic milk jugs at a reasonable price. That is why we are switching over to putting ours in glass. I've done that before. It's hard to put things in glass because people return them dirty or break them or whatever the case may be. That's a whole nother video, but I'm just saying that's the reason people use plastic. But why do you think they stopped doing that all of a sudden? Let me ask you another question. How many of you have loved ones that have had a cancer diagnosis? I know I have. I've had some really close people to me. How many of them did they address their nutrition or what they were putting in their body? Not just food-wise, but, fragrances and all the toxins that we're combated with. Things that our farm fields are being sprayed with. How many of them did they address that with? There may be some cases, but not many. I had the question posed to me one time, and I really hope this doesn't offend anybody because I don't mean it to, because I have very close people to me that have had cancer as well. But when my dad was alive, he was a pretty deep thinker. And he was convinced that if there was a cure for cancer, that they probably wouldn't tell us. I know you're like, wow. But think about it. Cancer is a multi-billion-dollar business, basically. It bankrupts people sometimes. Think about that. The reason I'm bringing that up in a video about food is because you have to start tracing back who's behind all the things. Who's behind the food companies? Who's behind the cancer, like chemotherapy drug companies? Why is it that people with diabetes suddenly can't get their medication in the last few years? They can't get insulin. It all, in my opinion, leads back to money. And you and I, the everyday Americans, we are the victims here. Hear me clearly. I'm not claiming to be any kind of expert. And if I or my children get cancer, I want them to get treatment. I'm not someone that's like, I've got the cure, don't get treatment, and here I can fix you with eating more apples. I think it's way more complex than that. I'm just giving you something to think about. But what if there are things we are doing that are contributing to the decline of our health and that is fueling this crazy, out of control, broken food system that's failing us and failing our health and failing our bodies and failing our children? So I'd like to give you a couple things just to think about. I know a lot of us here like shop local, buy local, and you may be thinking, I simply just can't afford it. I cannot afford to go to a little farmer's market and buy a week's worth of groceries. I just can't. I know it's easy to say shop local, but then you walk into a startup market and you can't afford one single thing in there. I get that. That's why I do try to be careful saying that, because just making a blanket statement, shop local, there's so many factors that go into that. Is the place that you're encouraging people to shop any better quality food than Walmart? Is it just a higher price because it's at a market? What I would encourage you to do is look through your grocery list. What kinds of processed foods and foods that are full of poison and that are big ag foods basically could you cut out and could you swap over? Maybe not swap everything. Maybe you can't afford that. Also, I'd encourage you, find a market or a farm that you can buy directly from that has the same goals and principles as you do. What I mean by that, just because someone has an organic label slapped on something doesn't mean it's also not sprayed with tons of chemicals. Maybe they're just organically certified chemicals. Find a farmer that's committed to regenerative ag. That's what we're committed to here on our farm. We're not certified organic. I have no plans to ever be certified organic. I don't want the government oversight. I don't want to spend the money to become that. I'm not sure that just saying organic is the goal I'm going for. What I am going for is animals being raised in harmony with nature to where their waste fertilizes the land instead of chemical fertilizers, where we rotate them around instead of sticking them on a plot of ground and then having to pour the grain to them in outrageous amounts because they don't have enough to eat. Raising vegetables in the seasons they're meant to be raised in and looking for pests that then we have natural ways to remedy those instead of just always having to spray them with something. Rotating our crops around. Grazing our milk cows so that their cream is rich and yellow and full of nutrients. Having our chickens out on pasture so their yolks are a deep orange because they're getting the things they need. That's what I'm looking for. And that's what I would encourage you to look into. Look for a regenerative ag market. And you'll have to educate yourself on that. Maybe I'll do a video on what all that entails one of these days. But basically, are they caring for the animals and the land? And is the land better off because of it? Or is the land suffering from it? That's some very basic questions to ask. And how long has this farm been around? I'm not saying don't support new farmers. Absolutely do. If they line up with what you're looking for, absolutely do. They'll never get going if you don't. But I'm seeing a way too many people, such a trend of people jumping into farming or homesteading just as a means to an end to be able to quit their day job, but their heart's not in it. And they throw all their eggs in that basket instead of working hard to build this thing and to build the dream and keeping their day job, even if that's a sacrifice along the way, because they're committed to it. I'm seeing too many people jump in and then jump back out. And so then if that's your supplier, then what are you left with? So yes, definitely shop local, but definitely do your research as well. Is this family that's farming and selling you food, are they also feeding that to their own children? That's a big, big thing. If they're willing to feed it to their family, you can probably feel pretty good about it. I would start there. That's where I would begin to jump out of this corporate food system. I would also say get your family involved. Teach your kids to cook. This is coming from someone who both of my kids got married this summer. Teach your kids to cook. Even if it's scrambled eggs, I don't care what it is. You are going to eat healthier food if you cook it yourself. Get your kids outside if you have young kids. Don't listen to, everyone saying your kids need social media, your kids need phones because they need to learn how to manage that and they need boundaries and they need all of this, but you need to let them have it because when they get out of the house, they'll go crazy and all these things. Coming from a mom whose kids just got married, don't do it. Put it off as long as possible. My kids hated it at the time, but they didn't get a phone until they were quite a bit older. This is not like me telling you exactly how to do it. I'm just telling you the results that I had. put it off as long as possible. Your kids don't need an iPhone. Your kids don't need social media. Your kids need sunshine. That's another lie that they've sold us, that the sun is harmful and that it's fine for them to sit inside in front of a screen and play a video game all day. It's not, and we're seeing the effects of it. I'm not saying I'm anti-phones or video games. My kids had them as they got older and it was age appropriate. But I will say there's temptations and there's pain that comes along with giving a kid something too early that they're not emotionally mature enough to handle. Let me just pause here and say too, before you comment on this video, man, you were all over the place. What even in the world is the point? The point is, this is my thoughts, and my thoughts do tend to be all over the place. I don't have a script in my hand telling you exactly what I predetermined to say. This is what I feel led to share with you on today's video. And so yes, it's a little all over the place, but if there's one thing I'm tired of just everyone, myself included, doing everything just because that's what they say. They say that Cheerios are healthy. They say the sun is bad. They say kids need phones. And I say baloney. I say it's time for us to take back our health. It's time for us to take back our life, basically. And Ben and I are just as guilty as anybody. So this is, if one finger's pointing at you, there's 4 pointing back at me. We have been so busy the last couple of years. We have ate out more than ever. We have ate convenience foods more than ever, and it makes you feel terrible. And so we are taking back our own health. We're implementing some very, very much needed changes, and it works. It helps your mental health. It helps your physical health. It just works. How you take care of your body affects everything. And there are some major money makers that don't want you to do that. And that's what this video boils down to. I'm sorry if it seems like rambling to you. It's my thoughts on the matter. I have a whole lot more. I could do a whole series on this, but I just challenge you. If you see a study, look into who did the study. Trace the money, and that's where you will find who they are. Follow the money. I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to wrap this up for today. I hope this helped you in some way. Parents, I just want to leave you at this, or with this, I should say. I just told you my kids are grown. They just got married, and they have both said they're so glad for certain things that we held hard and fast to. If you have convictions, I'm not saying what they are. Maybe yours has nothing to do with screens or phones or, whatever. If you have convictions you feel strongly about that God has laid on your heart, hold fast. I always was really close with my kids. And I would say we were friends during their growing up years. We still are, and it's even better now because they're on their own and I don't necessarily have to feel like I need to discipline them as much. I'm a different kind of mom in this stage, but there's things that have been laid on your heart, whether it's what you're feeding your kids or what you're allowing in your home, habits that have taken over. Hold hard and fast to those. If you truly feel those are a calling that you've been given, hold to them. I don't think there's kids that are going to look back and say, just wish you'd given me one more Snickers. You'd have been a good mom if you were. That is not what your kids are going to think about. And if you are doing what you feel called to do, I promise you down the road, they're going to thank you for it. They will. And they'll be better for it. So I don't know what time of life you're in or what kind of changes you need to make in your family, but let me encourage you today to do that. Even if your kids are grown, maybe it's changes you need to make, whether it's food or something completely different. You've bought into a lie. Just like that's what this all boils down to. We've been fed lies. So whatever area that's in, maybe your kids aren't at home and you can't influence them in your home anymore, but you can influence them by what you do. It may take a while for them to see what you're doing and that it is working and it is helping and it is changing things, but it won't be time wasted. Thanks for hanging out with me. I hope this helped you in some way, and I'll see you guys later. God bless.